Welcome to the Numbers Game Week 18 Saturday Primer, the show where analytics meets the action and data drives the decisions. I'm Cynthia Frelund, and together we'll dive deep into the stats that define this week's AFC North finales between the Browns at Ravens and the Bengals at Steelers. And we'll uncover how the numbers make all the difference. It is not just about what happens, it's about why it happens and how the data helps tell the story. Happy New Year! Reflecting on 2024 and looking ahead to 2025, I'm especially grateful and excited for our Numbers Game community. Thank you for spending some of your time and energy with me each and every week. I kind of can't believe we've reached the end of the regular season, but we're here. Our Numbers Game content will shift a bit starting next week. We'll go deeper into the playoff games and have some cool shows with some awards. And then, of course, start to transition into free agency and draft season. We are in this together, so please keep the feedback and dialogue coming. Okay, let's have a look back at our Week 17 results before we move forward. My model went 14 wins and 2 losses straight up, 10-6 against the spread, and 6-10 on totals, bringing my season through 17 weeks to 71.5% straight up, 53.5% against the spread, and 49.8% on totals. In the first Saturday game, the Baltimore Ravens are 17.5-point favorites hosting the Cleveland Browns. The total in this one is 42 points. The Browns defense has generated the highest run stuff rate against design runs this season. It's over 25%. They contacted opposing rushers behind the line of scrimmage at the highest rate as well, which was over 54%. The defense also holds the distinction of having the highest pressure rate this season. It's 38.4%. And in their Week 8 tilt, the Browns pressured Lamar Jackson on 42% of dropbacks. That was the second highest pressure rate he faced in a game this season. In that matchup, left tackle Ronnie Stanley allowed a 17.1 pressure rate, which is also the second highest he's allowed so far this season because of, guess who? Yeah, Myles Garrett. Of the 7 pressures Stanley allowed, 6 were surrendered to Garrett. Even though Garrett is currently on the injury report, let's just leave his numbers right here. Through 17 games, he has 80 pressures and a 19% pressure rate. He ranks 3rd among all defenders in both categories. His 0.7 second average time to get off is the quickest in the league, and his 38 quick pressures are the second most in the NFL. Ravens fans, here are 3 more next-gen notes that you can use as ammo to bolster the case for Lamar Jackson as MVP. First, he's averaged the most yards per attempt from the pocket this season at 9.3. He has a career-high 73% completion percentage from inside the pocket. That is 4th highest in the league. And his 122 passer rating is both a career and league high from the pocket. I also have to add this here too because it's bananas. His overall passer rating is 121.6. That is the second highest of any quarterback in a season all time. Second, he has 74 carries, 447 rushing yards, and 25 first downs on design quarterback runs this season, all of which lead the NFL. And third, and the one that's most predictive for this game against the Browns and their great pressure front, is that he has the highest passer rating, 98.1, and most yards per attempt, 7.8, and the most EPA of any quarterback when under pressure this season, while generating the second highest success rate on such passes. AKA, he's good in the pocket, he's good under pressure. Obviously, we know he's good on his legs. Whatever. Bottom line, I have the Ravens winning 30-14, and this ranks number 2 of the 16 games in confidence at 80.9%. That is a ridiculous number and pretty much only happens in Week 18. Also, the fact that 81% is second in confidence is kind of funny. The Ravens winning means they clinch the North and the 3 seed, and the Browns losing means they most likely will be selecting 3rd overall in the draft. I know I focused on the offense for my Baltimore point, but the defense also has the second most sacks this season at 52, including the most when not blitzing at 39. They've also improved greatly at limiting yak and now track at allowing the 5th fewest yards after the catch per reception in the league at just 5.2. That'll matter more going forward. The AFC North finishes up the regular season in Pittsburgh when Cincinnati comes to town in a must-win situation. Now, the Bengals are currently in 8th place in the AFC. They're 1 game behind Denver, and I have them with just a 14% chance of making the playoffs. But you're saying there's still a chance. The Steelers are currently the 5 seed, and they will know the results of the Browns-Ravens game ahead of kickoff. Should the Ravens lose, Pittsburgh would just need to win to take the AFC North title and be the 3 seed. Given the big line in favor of the Ravens in the first game, that means Vegas anticipates the Steelers either ending up as the 5 or the 6 seed. The line for this game currently stands at Bengals being favored by 1.5 points, and the total is 48.5. George Pickens leads all players in both receptions and receiving yards off deep passes this season, hauling in 15 passes intended to travel 20-plus air yards for a total of 515 yards. Pickens also leads the NFL in receptions over expected and receiving yards over expected on deep passes this season. It follows that Russell Wilson leads all quarterbacks in 20-plus yard completions per game at 3.9. Wilson has 629 deep passing yards. That's the second most in the league since he became the starter in Week 7. However, he's averaging just 6 yards per attempt over the last 3 games. It was 8.4 in his first 7 starts. And in the past 3 games, by the way, all of them have been losses, he threw only 3 touchdowns with 2 interceptions. That is a stark contrast to the 12 touchdowns and only 3 interception ratio that he had in his first 7 starts, and the team over that stretch was 6-1. Joe Burrow is now the 4th player in NFL history with 3 or more passing touchdowns in 8 straight games. You ready for the others? Peyton Manning in 2004, Tom Brady in 2007, and Andrew Luck in 2018. Bengals fans, here is a next-gen note to add to your ammo for the argument about why Joe Burrow should be the MVP. Quick passes. He leads the NFL in completions with 248 and yards with 2,234 on passes taken in under 2.5 seconds. And he's tied with Baker Mayfield with 20 such touchdown passes. Burrow has the 9th highest passer rating and 5th most passing EPA on quick passes. And for this matchup specifically, it is a great asset, as the Steelers have allowed both the most yards with 1,810 and EPA on quick passes this season. Bottom line, I have the Bengals keeping their playoff hopes alive 26-24. This ranks 14th in confidence, though. The tipping point here lies in the dual threat of both Jamar Chase, who is very likely to win the Triple Crown, along with T. Higgins, who's averaging career highs in receiving yards per game at 78 and 10 touchdowns in his 11 games played. Which brings us to our first 2025 menu. Let's try something a little different this week. I am going to put together 2 3-course menus for you. The first will feature 2 bland projections and 1 spicy, and the second will be 1 bland ingredient with 2 spices. Just a reminder, bland items, ingredients, are ones that happen in at least 55% of my simulations, and spicy ones happen in 48%, but have enough volatility to make the juice worth the squeeze. Menu 1, Item 1, it's a bland. Zay Flowers to earn more than 57.5 receiving yards. The Ravens earn an explosive play at a league-high 18.4% rate. It breaks down as 15.8 in the run game and 21.3% in the passing game. That 21.3% is not just the highest this season, but the 3rd highest in next-gen stats history. And you know who a big target on those deep plays are, on those explosive passes? Yeah, Zay Flowers. Ingredient 2, the second bland one. The Ravens to be leading by more than 9.5 points at the end of the first half. Now, you know how good the Ravens offense is, so let's look at the defense. They've allowed 17 or fewer total points in each of their last 3 games since their bye. They only did that twice in the 13 games prior to their bye. Overall, they rank first in points per game allowed, 16.3, and total yards per game allowed, 267, since week 11. And number 3, the spicy one. Jamar Chase to have more than 92.5 receiving yards. Chase has earned 768 yards after the catch this season, and 293 of those have been yak over expected. Both are the most by any wide receiver over the past 3 seasons. No player has more yards after the catch over expected than Chase's 913 since entering the league in 2021. And no receiver has more yak than his 2,413 yards over that same time period. On to the second menu. This one is a little bit spicier. Let's start with item number 1, the bland ingredient. Derrick Henry to rush for more than 88.5 yards. It's worth noting that a strong lead early in the game could limit his volume later in the game, but the number is very low for the King. I have him forecast for 99 yards. Fun fact, he needs just 17 rushing yards for a second career season of 1,800 or more rushing yards. Once he gets it, he joins Hall of Famers Eric Dickerson, Barry Sanders, and O.J. Simpson as the only players in NFL history with multiple such seasons. Item number 2, the first spicy ingredient. T. Higgins to score a touchdown. Higgins has 50-plus receiving yards and 1 or more touchdown in 6 of his last 7 games played, including each of his last 3. His 7 receiving touchdowns since returning from injury in Week 11 are tied for the most in the NFL over that period. Fun fact, Jamar Chase with 16 touchdowns and Higgins with 10 are the only teammate duo with 10 or more receiving touchdowns this season. Ingredient number 3, our second spicy one. Russell Wilson to rush for more than 15.5 yards. This is actually almost equally likely to happen in my model as him throwing for fewer than 230.5 yards, but it feels mean to say like less than, so let's just go with one that's more than. Russell Wilson has rushed for more than 16 in 3 of his last 4, and the Bengals edge rusher Trey Hendrickson, he's tied for the league lead in sacks of 14 and has the second most pressures. He has 85 of those. He will likely see a lot of left tackle Dan Moore. The Steelers' left tackle has allowed the 11th highest pressure rate at the position, and 13 of those pressures have resulted in sacks. That's the second most in the NFL. In other words, Russ will run to escape pressure. If you want to tail this play, you can find it on Underdog and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash using the promo code NUMBERS. Happy New Year. I hope 2025 is the best one yet, and I cannot wait for the fun to come in this community. I will see you back here for the rest of Week 18's games in a day or so. And of course, projections, scores, and more, they are ready for you to use as you wish on Thursday, January 2nd. Thank you for bearing with me for the extra day, but with who's resting and who's not, I wanted to make sure and kind of get the best information possible. And most importantly, thank you for hanging out. And if you like the show, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and pass it along so we can continue to grow.